The car rental clerk's expression told Clara Kennedy everything she needed to know before the woman even spoke. "I'm sorry, madam, but your credit card was declined." Clara's stomach dropped. She stood at the counter of the Kansas City rental agency, watching her last hope of making it to her sister's wedding in California evaporate. Behind her, a line of impatient travelers shifted and sighed. Her phone had died 2 hours ago, her bus ticket had somehow been invalid, and now this. She was officially stranded, 1,500 miles from where she needed to be in 4 days. "Can you try it again?" Clara asked, though she knew it was pointless. Her account had maybe $30 left, and a rental car for a cross-country trip would cost hundreds. "I tried it twice already." Clara felt her face flush as she stepped aside, letting the businessman behind her take her place. She dragged her battered suitcase toward the exit, blinking back tears. Megan would be devastated if she missed the wedding. Her little sister had been planning this day for a year, and Clara had promised, absolutely promised, that she would be there. But between losing her job at the bookstore 3 weeks ago and her landlord raising her rent, Clara was barely keeping her head above water. She sat on a bench outside the rental office, staring at her dead phone. No charger, no money for a hotel, and no way forward. The afternoon sun beat down on the parking lot, and Clara wondered if this was rock bottom or if there was still further to fall. "Excuse me." Clara looked up to find a man standing in front of her, backlit by the sun. She shaded her eyes and took him in. He was tall, maybe 6'2", with dark hair that needed a trim and a strong jaw shadowed with stubble. He wore jeans and a plain white t-shirt that stretched across broad shoulders, and his hazel eyes studied her with an intensity that made her sit up straighter. "Yes. I couldn't help but overhear your situation in there," he said, his voice deep and steady. "This is going to sound strange, but I'm driving to Los Angeles. If you need to get west, you're welcome to share the ride." Clara's first instinct was to refuse. She'd been raised on stranger danger and true crime podcasts, but desperation did funny things to common sense. "Why would you offer that?" "Because I hate driving alone and you look like you could use a break." He extended his hand. "Isaac Edwards, I promise I'm not a serial killer." That's exactly what a serial killer would say, but Clara found herself shaking his hand anyway. His grip was warm and firm. "Clara Kennedy, I'm leaving in about 20 minutes. The offer stands if you want it." He pulled out his phone and showed her his driver's license on the screen. "Here, take a picture of this and send it to someone you trust. Get my license plate too." "I'll be driving a black Range Rover." The fact that he understood her hesitation and offered solutions somehow made Clara trust him more. "Where are you headed in LA?" "Santa Monica." "You?" "My sister's getting married in Malibu on Saturday." Isaac nodded. "I can get you there." "I was planning to drive straight through with minimal stops, but we can work out the details." Clara chewed her lip. Every rational cell in her brain screamed this was a terrible idea, but what choice did she have? She could call her sister and admit defeat, or she could take a chance on a stranger's kindness. "Okay. Yes, thank you. Meet me at Pump 7 in 20 minutes. Isaac walked away before she could second-guess herself, his long strides eating up the distance to the convenience store. Clara found a charging station inside the rental office lobby and plugged in her phone long enough to snap a photo of Isaac's license and text it to her roommate Julie with a message. "If I die, this is the guy." Then she added his license plate number from where she could see the Range Rover parked near the pumps. Julie responded immediately. "Are you insane?" Probably, Clara thought, but she was also desperate. 20 minutes later, she approached the black Range Rover. Isaac was loading a small duffel bag into the back. The vehicle was immaculate and clearly expensive. Clara had been in enough used cars to recognize the real deal when she saw it. "Travel light?" she asked, comparing his single bag to her overstuffed suitcase. "I don't need much." He took her suitcase and lifted it into the cargo area like it weighed nothing. "You hungry? We should grab food before we hit the road." They picked up sandwiches and coffee from the convenience store, and Clara insisted on paying even though it took the last of her cash. She had her pride, even if she didn't have much else. As Isaac pulled onto I-70 heading west, Clara studied him from the passenger seat. His hands were relaxed on the steering wheel, and he drove with the confidence of someone who did this often. The car's interior smelled like leather and something crisp and masculine, maybe his cologne. Classic rock played softly from the speakers. "So what takes you to California?" Clara asked, unwrapping her sandwich. "Business meeting." His answer was vague, and Clara noticed he didn't elaborate. "What kind of business?" "Manufacturing." Isaac glanced at her. "What about you? Besides the wedding?" "I'm between jobs at the moment." Clara tried to keep the bitterness from her voice. "I worked at an independent bookstore for 3 years, but the owner decided to sell to a developer. Now it's going to be a luxury condo. That's rough. You must have loved it." "I did." Clara watched Kansas flatten into rolling plains outside her window. "Books were my escape growing up. Being surrounded by them every day felt like magic." They fell into an easy rhythm after that, trading stories about bad jobs and worse bosses. Isaac had a dry sense of humor that caught Clara off guard, making her laugh at unexpected moments. He told her about working construction one summer in college and accidentally demolishing the wrong wall. She told him about the time she'd spilled an entire pot of coffee on a customer who turned out to be a food critic. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Isaac pulled off at her rest stop. "We should probably discuss logistics." "I can drive through the night, but you might want to sleep." "I can help drive," Clara offered. "Have you ever driven a Range Rover? I've driven a car." Isaac's mouth quirked. "Not the same thing. The back seat reclines pretty far. You should rest while you can." Clara wanted to argue, but exhaustion was pulling at her bones. She hadn't slept well in weeks, worrying about money and jobs and her uncertain future. "What about you?" "I'm good for another 8 hours at least. I'll wake you when I need a break." Something in his tone suggested he was used to pushing himself, used to going without. Clara climbed into the back seat and found he was right. It reclined almost flat, and there was a blanket folded neatly beside a pillow. She didn't remember closing her eyes. When she woke, the car was stopped at a gas station and Isaac was gone. Clara sat up, disoriented. The clock on the dashboard read 3 in the morning. Through the window, she could see Isaac pumping gas, his profile illuminated by the harsh fluorescent lights. Even exhausted and rumpled, he was striking. He caught her watching and lifted his hand in a small wave. A few minutes later, he slid back into the driver's seat with 2 cups of terrible gas station coffee. "Morning," he said, handing her one. "You should rest," Clara said. "I can drive for a while." "Clara, this vehicle costs more than most people's houses. No offense, but I'm not letting someone I just met drive it." The casual mention of the car's value startled her. "What do you do in manufacturing?" "I own the company." Isaac took a long drink of his coffee. "We make industrial components. It's not interesting." But Clara's mind was racing. He owned a company. He drove a Range Rover that cost more than a house. The clothes she'd thought were casual were probably designer basics. She'd been so focused on her own problems that she hadn't stopped to wonder about Isaac's circumstances. "You're rich," she said. "I do okay." His tone was deliberately neutral. "Why are you driving cross-country? Why not fly?" Isaac was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the dark highway. Because sometimes you need to clear your head, and 30,000 feet doesn't cut it. There was something raw in his voice, something that suggested he understood desperation, even if his version looked different from hers. Clara settled back in her seat, and they drove through the darkness with only the road and the night between them. By dawn, they were crossing into Colorado. The landscape transformed into something majestic, mountains rising like sentinels against the pink sky. Isaac finally admitted he needed rest, and they checked into a budget motel just off the highway. 2 rooms, Clara insisted, even though Isaac offered to pay for both. "I've got it," she said, handing over her credit card and praying it would clear for one night. It did, barely. Clara showered and collapsed onto the scratchy motel comforter, but sleep wouldn't come. She kept thinking about Isaac, about the careful way he'd offered help without making her feel small, about how he'd driven through the night so she could rest, about the way his hands looked on the steering wheel and the sound of his laugh. This was dangerous territory. He was rich and she was broke, and this arrangement had an expiration date. In 2 days, they'd reach California, and he'd disappear into whatever world millionaires inhabited. She'd go to her sister's wedding and then figure out her life. There was no room for foolish fantasies. But when they met in the parking lot that afternoon, Clara's heart did a stupid little flip. Isaac had showered too, his hair damp and curling slightly at his neck. He wore a different t-shirt, this one gray, and he'd shaved. He looked younger, more approachable, and Clara had to remind herself to breathe normally. "There's a diner down the road," Isaac said. "Real food, not gas station sandwiches." The diner was one of those classic American places with red vinyl booths and a jukebox in the corner. They slid into a booth by the window, and Clara ordered the cheapest thing on the menu. Isaac ordered enough food for 3 people. "Growing boy," she teased. "I'm starving." "And you should eat more than a salad." "I'm fine." Isaac studied her across the table. "Clara, I'm paying for lunch, don't argue. I can pay for my own food. I know you can, but I'm asking you to let me do this, please." There was something in his eyes, a kind of gentle insistence that made Clara's defenses crumble. She nodded, and Isaac ordered her a burger and fries to go with her salad. As they ate, Isaac asked about her sister's wedding, and Clara found herself talking about Megan with the kind of affection that came from being both big sister and occasional parent. Their mother had died when Megan was 12, and their father had checked out emotionally long before that. Clara had worked 2 jobs to help Megan get through college, had been there for every heartbreak and triumph. "She sounds lucky to have you," Isaac said. "I'm the lucky one. She's the best person I know." Isaac told her about his own family, about a father who'd built a small manufacturing business and expected his son to take over, about how Isaac had doubled the company's revenue in 5 years and earned nothing but a grunt of acknowledgement, about a mother who cared more about social standing than her son's happiness. "Is that what the LA meeting is about?" Clara asked. "Family business, potential acquisition. My father thinks I'm being reckless." Isaac's jaw tightened. "He thinks I should be satisfied with what we have." "But you're not. I want to build something that matters, not just make money but actually contribute something meaningful." He looked almost embarrassed. "That probably sounds naive. It sounds like you care." Clara reached across the table and touched his hand without thinking. "That's not naive." Isaac's eyes met hers and something shifted between them. The air felt charged, heavy with possibility. Clara withdrew her hand, her skin tingling where they'd touched. They drove through Colorado in comfortable silence, the mountains giving way to desert. Isaac let Clara control the music, and she introduced him to indie bands he'd never heard of. He introduced her to old blues that made her soul ache in the best way. As evening approached, They stopped at a scenic overlook. The desert stretched endlessly before them, painted in shades of red and gold by the setting sun. Clara got out of the car and stood at the edge, breathing in the vast openness. Isaac joined her, standing close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his body. "Beautiful," he said. Clara wasn't sure if he meant the view or something else. When she glanced at him, he was looking at her. "We should talk about something," Isaac said. "I feel like I'm not being completely honest with you." Clara's stomach clenched. Here it came, the catch. "Okay. My company, it's bigger than I made it sound. The meeting in LA, it's about acquiring a competitor. The deal is worth $50 million. Clara took a step back. $50 million. I'm not just doing okay financially, I'm a millionaire several times over. Isaac ran his hand through his hair, looking uncomfortable. "I didn't want that to be the first thing you knew about me. People treat you differently when they know." "I'm broke," Clara blurted out. "Like actually broke. I have maybe $20 to my name and I'm sleeping on my friend's couch because I can't afford my rent. I was trying to take a bus to California, but even that fell through. We're not even in the same universe. Does it matter?" "Of course it matters." "Why?" Isaac turned to face her fully. "Because I have money and you don't. That's just circumstances, Clara. It's not who we are. Easy for you to say when you're on the winning side." Isaac flinched. "You think having money makes everything easy. I spend every day with people who only care about what I can do for them. My father sees me as a tool to expand his legacy. Women date me for my bank account. I can't trust anyone's motives." He took a breath. "But you didn't know. You've been genuine from the start. Do you know how rare that is?" Clara's anger deflated. She could hear the loneliness in his voice, a kind of isolation she understood even if the details differed. "I'm still genuine. This doesn't change anything about me." "Then why should it change anything about how you see me?" They stood there as the sun disappeared below the horizon, neither willing to back down. Finally, Clara sighed. "It doesn't. You're still the guy who offered me a ride when I was stranded. That's what matters." Isaac's shoulders relaxed. "Thank you." They got back in the car, but something had shifted. The easy companionship was tinged with awareness now, with the recognition that whatever this was between them, it was becoming something neither had anticipated. That night, they stopped at another motel and Isaac paid for both rooms before Clara could argue. She was too tired to fight him. They said goodnight in the parking lot, lingering awkwardly until Isaac finally stepped back. "See you in the morning," he said. Clara lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. She was falling for him. It was reckless and stupid and completely impractical, but she couldn't help it. Isaac made her feel seen in a way no one else had. He listened when she talked, remembered details, cared about her opinions. The money thing terrified her, but not because she wanted it. Because she knew how easy it would be to dismiss what she felt as some kind of gold-digging impulse, even though nothing could be further from the truth. The next day brought them through Utah's Red Rock country. Isaac suggested a detour to Sea Arches National Park, and Clara agreed. They hiked to Delicate Arch in the afternoon heat, taking breaks to drink water and catch their breath. When they reached the arch, Clara gasped. It was more spectacular than any photo could capture, a perfect frame of red stone against the impossibly blue sky. "Worth the climb?" Isaac asked. He'd barely broken a sweat while Clara was breathing hard. "Absolutely." Clara pulled out her phone to take pictures and Isaac stepped into frame beside her. "For evidence that you survived the trip," he said. They took a selfie together, Clara's cheeks flushed from exertion and Isaac grinning beside her. Later, looking at that photo, Clara would remember thinking this was the moment everything became real. On the hike back down, Clara slipped on loose gravel. Isaac caught her, his arm wrapping around her waist to steady her. For a heartbeat, they stood frozen, her hands pressed against his chest, his face inches from hers. "You okay?" His voice was rough. Clara nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Isaac didn't let go immediately, and she didn't pull away. The heat between them had nothing to do with the desert sun. Finally, slowly, Isaac released her. They didn't talk much on the walk back to the car, but the tension followed them like a shadow. That evening they crossed into Nevada. Las Vegas glowed on the horizon like a hallucination, all neon and impossible promise. Isaac suggested they stop for dinner somewhere nice, and Clara found herself agreeing even though she knew she couldn't afford nice. The restaurant Isaac chose was on the Strip, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Bellagio fountains. Clara felt underdressed in her jeans and simple blouse, but Isaac assured her she looked perfect. He wore jeans too, though his probably cost more than her monthly rent. Over wine and steak, they talked about everything and nothing. Isaac told her about learning to sail as a kid, about the peace of being on the water with nothing but wind and waves. Clara told him about winning a poetry contest in high school and using the prize money to buy books for her school library. "You're a better person than me," Isaac said. "I doubt that. You offered a stranded stranger a ride across the country. That was selfish. I wanted the company. So, you still helped me." Clara took a sip of wine, feeling bold. "Why are you single, Isaac? I can't imagine you're lacking for options." He was quiet for a moment, swirling the wine in his glass. "Most people want Isaac Edwards, the millionaire, not Isaac the person. It gets old." "What about women who knew you before the money?" "There weren't many. I grew up middle class, went to state school. Worked my way up in my father's company from the ground floor. By the time I had any social life, I also had money." He met her eyes. "What about you? Why is someone like you single?" Clara felt her cheeks heat. "Someone like me, smart, kind, beautiful, you must have men lining up. I've been focused on survival, not dating, and most guys don't stick around when they realize I work retail and live paycheck to paycheck." She tried to keep her tone light. "Funny how we have opposite problems." "Maybe that's why this works," Isaac said quietly. "This." He gestured between them. "Whatever this is, this connection," Clara's heart hammered. "Isaac, I know, bad timing, impossible circumstances, but I can't pretend I don't feel it. I feel it too." The admission felt like stepping off a cliff. "But in 2 days, I'll be at my sister's wedding and you'll be in your meeting. Then what?" "I don't know. But maybe we don't have to figure it out right now. Maybe we can just be honest about what's happening." After dinner, they walked along the Strip, getting swept up in the chaos of tourists and street performers. At one point, Clara stopped to watch a musician playing guitar, his case open for tips. She dug out her last $5 bill and dropped it in, catching Isaac's smile. "What?" she asked. "You just gave away gas station coffee money. He's good. Artists should be supported." Isaac pulled out his wallet and added a $100 bill to the case. The musician's eyes went wide, and he launched into an energetic rendition of a classic love song. Isaac held out his hand to Clara. "Dance with me." "Here, in front of everyone." "Why not?" Clara let him pull her close. They swayed together on the sidewalk, oblivious to the crowd flowing around them. Isaac's hand was warm on her lower back, and Clara rested her head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. This moment felt stolen from some other life, some version of reality where millionaires and broke bookstore workers made sense together. When the song ended, Isaac didn't let go immediately. He looked down at her, his expression serious. "Clara," his phone rang, shattering the moment. Isaac glanced at the screen and grimaced. "I need to take this. It's my lawyer." While Isaac stepped away to handle business, Clara sat on a nearby bench and watched the Bellagio fountains dance. The water moved in perfect synchronization with the music, beautiful and choreographed and temporary. Kind of like this trip, she thought. Isaac returned looking stressed. The LA meeting got moved up to tomorrow afternoon. We need to leave first thing in the morning. That's fine. We're close anyway, right? About 5 hours. Isaac sat beside her, his leg pressing against hers. Clara, after the meeting, I have to fly back to Kansas City for 2 days. Company emergency. But I want to come back for your sister's wedding. If you'll let me. Clara's breath caught. You want to come to the wedding? I want to spend more time with you. Is that okay? More than okay. It was everything, but Clara forced herself to think practically. Won't your family expect you at business things? Won't people wonder why you're at a stranger's wedding? I don't care what people wonder. Do you want me there? Yes. The word came out as barely a whisper. But Isaac, this is crazy. We just met. I know. Believe me, I know, but I can't remember the last time I felt this way about anyone. He took her hand, lacing his fingers through hers. I'm not asking for promises or labels. I just want a chance to see where this goes. Clara squeezed his hand. Okay, yes. They drove through the night, neither able to sleep. They talked about their dreams, their fears, the things that kept them awake at 3 in the morning. Isaac told her about the pressure of living up to his father's legacy, about the fear that no matter what he achieved, it would never be enough. Clara told him about feeling invisible, about watching other people live big lives while she just survived. You're not invisible, Isaac said. Not to me. As dawn broke over the California desert, Clara felt something shift inside her. This wasn't just attraction or the novelty of someone being kind. This was real, terrifying, wonderful feeling that made her want to be brave. They reached Santa Monica just before noon. Isaac drove to a hotel on the beach, where a valet immediately approached. Isaac handed over his keys and grabbed both their bags, waving away Clara's protests. We have a few hours before I need to be at my meeting. Let me get us rooms and we can get some rest. But at the reception desk, the clerk informed them the hotel was fully booked. We have one suite available with a king bed and a pull-out sofa. Isaac looked at Clara. Your choice. She should say no, should insist they find another hotel. Instead, she heard herself say, that works. The suite was beautiful, all white and blue with an ocean view that took Clara's breath away. She walked to the window, staring at the Pacific stretching to the horizon. I've never seen the ocean before, she admitted. Isaac came to stand beside her. Really? Never made it out of the Midwest until this trip. We should go down to the beach before my meeting. You can't come to California and not touch the ocean. They changed into casual clothes, and Isaac led her down to the sand. Clara pulled off her shoes and stepped into the surf, gasping at the cold. A wave crashed around her ankles and she laughed, the sound surprised and delighted. Isaac watched her with an expression so tender it made Clara's chest ache. She waded out further and he followed, both of them getting soaked to their knees. When another wave came, larger than the others, Clara lost her balance. Isaac caught her, pulling her against him. I've got you, he said. Clara looked up at him, at this man who had appeared in her life like some kind of miracle. Isaac, I'm scared. Of what? This. You, how much I feel after only knowing you for 3 days. I'm scared too. He brushed a strand of wet hair from her face. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you. He kissed her then, soft and sweet with the taste of salt water between them. Clara wrapped her arms around his neck, pressing closer, and the kiss deepened. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Isaac rested his forehead against hers. I have to go to this meeting, he said. But when I get back, we need to talk about what happens next. Okay. Isaac kissed her again, quick and fierce. Then he headed back to the hotel to change into a suit while Clara stayed on the beach, her fingers touching her lips, her heart full of terrified joy. While Isaac was in his meeting, Clara took a bus to Malibu to meet her sister at the wedding venue. Megan took one look at Clara's face and squealed. "You met someone. How can you possibly know that? You're glowing. Literally glowing." Megan grabbed Clara's hands. "Tell me everything." So Clara did, the whole improbable story spilling out. Megan listened with wide eyes, occasionally interjecting with questions or exclamations. When Clara finished, Megan hugged her tight. "This is amazing. You deserve this, Clara. You deserve someone who sees how incredible you are. But it's complicated. Love is always complicated." "That doesn't make it less worth it." Megan pulled back. "Is he coming to the wedding?" "He said he wants to." "Then bring him. I want to meet the man who made my sister believe in romance again." That evening, Clara returned to the hotel to find Isaac already back, standing on the suite's balcony watching the sunset. He changed back into jeans and a navy shirt that made his eyes look more green than hazel. "How was the meeting?" Clara asked, joining him outside. "Good. The acquisition is moving forward." But his tone suggested his mind was elsewhere. "How was your sister?" "Excited, chaotic, very curious about you." Isaac turned to face her fully. "Clara, I've been thinking all afternoon about you, about us, about how to make this work. And I want to try. I know it's fast, and I know we're from different worlds, but I want to actually try to build something with you." He took both her hands in his. "When I fly back to Kansas City tomorrow, come with me. Stay at my place, meet my friends, see my life. Then I'll come back here with you for the wedding and we'll figure out the rest together." Clara's mind raced. "Isaac, I can't just stay at your place. We barely know each other." "You're right, I'm sorry. I'm pushing too hard." "No, you're not. I want this too, but I need to be smart about it. I need to find a job and a place to live and get my life together first." "What if you didn't have to do it alone?" Isaac asked. "What if I helped?" "I can't take your money." "I'm not offering money. I'm offering support, connections. I know people who own bookstores and publishing houses. I can make introductions. That feels like charity." "It's not charity, it's what people do when they care about each other." Isaac's voice was patient but firm. "Clara, I'm not asking you to give up your independence. I'm asking you to let me be part of your life." Clara wanted to say yes. Every fiber of her being wanted to throw caution away and leap into this with both feet. But years of struggling had taught her to be careful, to protect herself. "Come to the wedding with me," she said. "Meet my sister and see me in my normal life. Then we'll talk about next steps." Isaac nodded, though she could see the disappointment in his eyes. "Okay, that's fair." That night, they ordered room service and ate on the balcony, talking until the stars came out. Isaac told her more about his business, about the satisfaction of creating jobs and building something tangible. Clara told him about the book she'd started writing years ago and abandoned, convinced she had nothing worth saying. "I'd like to read it sometime," Isaac said. "It's terrible. I doubt that. But even if it is, I'd still like to read it." When they finally went inside, Clara took the pull-out sofa without discussion. But sleep was elusive. She lay in the dark, listening to Isaac's breathing from the other room, and wondered if she was making a mistake by being cautious. What if this was her one chance at something real, and she let it slip away because she was too scared to trust it? At some point, she must have dozed off, because she woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and the smell of coffee. Isaac was on the balcony, phone pressed to his ear, his voice tight with frustration. "Dad, I don't care what you think about the acquisition. It's my decision." A pause. "No, I'm not coming back until Friday." Another pause, longer this time. "Because I have plans, personal plans." Isaac ran his hand through his hair. "I don't have to explain my life to you." He ended the call and stood gripping the balcony railing, his shoulders tense. Clara went to him, placing her hand on his back. You okay? Isaac turned, his expression softening when he saw her. Family drama. My father thinks I should be focused solely on business. What do you think? I think I've spent my whole life doing what other people expect. Maybe it's time to do what makes me happy. He pulled her into his arms, and Clara went willingly, resting her head against his chest. They stood like that for a long moment, finding comfort in each other's presence. Then Isaac tilted Clara's chin up and kissed her, slow and deep. When they broke apart, his eyes were dark with want. Come to Kansas City with me, he said again. Just for the 2 days. Stay in a hotel if you want. I'll pay for it, no arguments, but I don't want to leave you. Clara's resistance crumbled. Okay. Yes. They flew back that afternoon on a commercial flight, Isaac insisting on first-class tickets despite Clara's protests. She'd never flown first class before, and the experience was surreal. Champagne before takeoff, seats that reclined into beds, food that actually tasted good. Isaac watched her take it all in with an amused smile. First time. I've flown exactly twice in my life, both times in the very back of the plane. Clara accepted a glass of champagne from the flight attendant. This is ridiculous. This is just comfortable travel. For you, maybe. For me, it's a glimpse into another universe. Isaac took her hand. You could get used to it. I don't want to get used to things I can't afford on my own. What if someday you could afford it? Would that be okay? Clara didn't know how to answer that. The thought of being successful enough to fly first class felt as distant as the moon. In Kansas City, Isaac's driver met them at the airport with a sleek black sedan. He drove them to a high-rise building downtown, where Isaac lived in the penthouse. Clara stepped into his apartment and tried not to gape. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, and the space was decorated in clean lines and neutral colors. It was beautiful and impersonal, like a hotel. Make yourself at home, Isaac said, setting down their bags. Are you hungry? Starving? They ordered Thai food and ate sitting on Isaac's balcony, the city lights twinkling below them. Clara asked about his typical day, and Isaac described a routine of early mornings, meetings, problem-solving, and more meetings. It sounded exhausting. When do you have fun? Clara asked. Define fun. Isaac, that's depressing. He shrugged. It's the job. When you run a company, there's always something that needs attention. But you must do something for yourself. Hobbies, friends, anything. I used to sail. Haven't been in over a year. Isaac looked out at the skyline. I used to have friends too before everyone got married and had kids. Clara heard the loneliness in his voice again, that same isolation she'd sensed on the first day. What about dating? Before me, I mean. A few relationships. None that lasted. I think the longest was 6 months, and she spent most of that time trying to get me to fund her lifestyle brand. That's awful. That's reality when you have money. Everyone wants something. He met her eyes. Except you. You've never asked me for anything. That's not true. You're literally letting me stay in your penthouse. I offered. You didn't ask. Isaac reached across the table and took her hand. You have no idea how rare that is. Later, Isaac showed Clara to the guest room, which was bigger than her entire apartment. The bed was massive, covered in hotel-quality linens, and there was an in-suite bathroom with a soaking tub. Clara felt like she was in a fever dream. If you need anything, I'm just down the hall, Isaac said, lingering in the doorway. Thank you for all of this. Isaac crossed the room and cupped her face in his hands. Thank you for taking a chance on me. He kissed her gently, and Clara felt herself melting into him. When he pulled away, his eyes were dark with desire, but he stepped back. Good night, Clara. Good night. Clara lay in the enormous bed, staring at the ceiling, her body humming with want. Every instinct told her to go to Isaac's room, to stop overthinking and just feel. But something held her back. Maybe it was fear, or maybe it was the knowledge that once she crossed that line, There would be no going back. The next morning, Isaac had to go into the office for a few hours. He left Clara with his car and driver, encouraging her to explore the city. Instead, Clara asked the driver to take her to the public library. She spent the morning researching Isaac's company online. Edwards Manufacturing was bigger than she'd imagined. They produced components for aerospace and medical equipment, employed over 500 people, and had multiple facilities across the Midwest. Isaac's father, Ivan Edwards, had founded the company 40 years ago. Isaac had taken over as CEO 3 years ago, and since then, revenue had nearly doubled. There were photos of Isaac at charity events, groundbreaking ceremonies, and business conferences. In all of them, he wore a professional smile that didn't reach his eyes. Only in the photos from the last few days, the ones they'd taken together, did he look truly happy. Clara left the library feeling overwhelmed. Isaac wasn't just rich. He was legitimately wealthy, connected, and powerful. What was she doing in his world? When she returned to the penthouse, she found Isaac already home, cooking in his massive kitchen. He looked up when she entered, his face brightening. "You're back. Good timing. I'm making pasta. You cook." "Don't sound so surprised. I lived alone for years before I could afford to hire help." He stirred something that smelled amazing on the stove. "How was your day?" Clara decided honesty was better than dancing around it. "I went to the library and looked up your company. Isaac, you're actually famous in business circles." Isaac's jaw tightened. "Does that change things?" "I don't know, maybe. You're not just a millionaire, you're a major player. I'm nobody." Isaac turned off the stove and came to stand in front of her. "First of all, you're not nobody. You're smart and kind and talented, and the fact that you don't see that breaks my heart." He took her hands. "Second, yes, I have money and some level of business success. But that's what I do, not who I am. Who I am is the guy who drove cross-country with you, the guy who made you laugh at gas stations and danced with you in Las Vegas. That's the person I want you to see." "I do see that person. But I also see the reality of our situations." "Then see all of it. See that I have resources and influence, and I want to use those things to make your life better, not because you need saving, but because I care about you." Isaac's voice was fierce. "Clara, I'm falling for you. Hard. And I know it's fast and I know it's crazy, but I can't help it." Clara felt tears prick her eyes. "I'm falling for you too. That's what scares me." Isaac pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. "Then let's be scared together, but let's not run from this." They ate dinner on the couch. Clara tucked against Isaac's side while they watched a movie neither really paid attention to. At some point, Isaac's hand found its way into her hair, his fingers gently massaging her scalp. Clara closed her eyes, feeling herself relax completely for the first time in months. "This is nice," she murmured. "It really is." Isaac kissed the top of her head. "I could get used to this. Careful, you'll spoil me." "That's the plan." The next day, Isaac took Clara to lunch at an upscale restaurant where everyone seemed to know him. They were seated immediately at the best table, and the manager personally came over to greet them. Clara felt conspicuous in her simple sundress, while other diners wore designer labels. Halfway through the meal, a woman approached their table. She was stunning, with sleek dark hair and a body-hugging designer suit. "Isaac, darling, I heard you were in town." Isaac's expression cooled. "Vanessa, aren't you going to introduce me to your friend?" Vanessa's eyes raked over Clara with thinly veiled disdain. "Clara, this is Vanessa Mitchell. We dated briefly." "Vanessa, Clara Kennedy. Charming." Vanessa's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Isaac, we should have coffee soon. I have a business proposition for you. Email my assistant." Vanessa leaned down and kissed Isaac's cheek, her hand lingering on his shoulder. "Don't be a stranger." She walked away, and Clara noticed every man in the restaurant watching her go. Sorry about that, Isaac said. She's persistent. She's gorgeous. She's manipulative. We dated for 4 months, and she spent the entire time trying to get me to invest in her fashion line. Isaac reached across the table and took Clara's hand. I'm not interested in people like that. She's more your speed, though. Sophisticated, polished in your world. Clara, stop. You're the one I want. Not her, not anyone else. You. Clara wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at her. Women like Vanessa were what millionaires ended up with, not broke bookstore workers with student loans and thrift store clothes. That evening they flew back to Los Angeles. Isaac had been quiet since lunch, and Clara wondered if he was regretting this whole thing. Maybe reality was setting in for him too. At the Santa Monica Hotel, Isaac walked Clara to her room. The wedding was tomorrow, and after that, everything would change one way or another. I'll pick you up at 10, Isaac said. The wedding's at noon, right? Yes. Isaac, are you sure about this? You don't have to come. I want to be there. I want to meet your sister and see you surrounded by the people you love. He cupped her face in his hands. Stop trying to push me away. I'm not. Yes, you are. Ever since we got to Kansas City, you've been building walls. What are you afraid of? That this isn't real, Clara admitted. That you'll wake up and realize I don't fit in your life. Isaac kissed her, hard and demanding. When he pulled back, his eyes blazed. You fit perfectly. The question is whether I fit in yours. Before Clara could respond, Isaac kissed her again, backing her against the door. This kiss was different, hungrier, filled with weeks of tension and want. Clara's hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer. Isaac's hand slid into her hair, angling her head to deepen the kiss. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Isaac rested his forehead against hers. I should go before I forget to be a gentleman. Maybe I don't want you to be a gentleman. Isaac groaned. Don't tempt me. I want to do this right. What does that mean? It means I want you to be sure. I want you to trust that this is real before we take that step. He kissed her once more, soft and sweet. I'll see you in the morning. Clara watched him walk away, her body still humming with desire. She went into her room and immediately called Megan. I think I'm in love with him, Clara said without preamble. Megan squealed. I knew it, Clara. This is amazing. It's terrifying. What if I'm making a huge mistake? What if you're not? What if this is the real thing? Megan's voice gentled. You've spent your whole life taking care of everyone else. Maybe it's time to let someone take care of you. I don't need taking care of. That's not what I meant. I meant letting someone be your partner, your support. You don't have to do everything alone anymore. After they hung up, Clara lay in bed thinking about Megan's words. She'd been independent for so long, she'd forgotten what it felt like to rely on someone else. Isaac made her want to try. The wedding day dawned clear and perfect. Clara got ready carefully, wearing the one nice dress she owned. It was simple, a blue sundress she'd bought for a job interview years ago, but it fit well and made her feel pretty. She did her makeup and hair, and when she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. She looked happy. Isaac arrived exactly at 10, wearing a charcoal suit that must have been custom-tailored. He looked devastating, all clean lines and confident masculinity. When he saw Clara, his eyes lit up. You look beautiful. You clean up pretty well yourself. They drove to the wedding venue, a beautiful estate overlooking the ocean. Megan had gone all out and everything was decorated in white and gold. Clara found her sister in the bridal suite, a bundle of nerves and excitement. Clara, Megan pulled her into a crushing hug. You're here. You're really here. I wouldn't miss it for anything. Clara pulled back to look at her sister. You're gorgeous. Derek is a lucky man. Where's your millionaire? He's not my millionaire, and he's waiting outside. Megan grabbed Clara's hands. Bring him in. I want to meet him before the ceremony. Isaac was talking with some of the other guests when Clara found him. She brought him to the bridal suite, and Megan's eyes went wide when she saw him. "Okay, I see why you're losing your mind," Megan whispered to Clara. To Isaac, she said, "I'm Megan. Thank you for getting my sister here safely." "It was my pleasure. Congratulations on your wedding." "Clara tells me you two met under dramatic circumstances." Isaac smiled. "She was stranded. I needed company. It worked out." Megan studied him for a long moment, then seemed to come to a decision. "Take care of her. She acts tough, but she's got a soft heart." "I know. I'll protect it, I promise." The ceremony was beautiful. Clara cried through the whole thing, watching her little sister marry the love of her life. Isaac sat beside her, holding her hand, occasionally offering his handkerchief. When it was over, he pulled Clara into his arms. "You okay?" "I'm happy. She deserves this." "So do you." At the reception, Clara introduced Isaac to various family members and old friends. Everyone was curious about him, and Isaac handled the attention with easy charm. He danced with Clara's grandmother, made her uncle laugh, and generally won over everyone he met. When the first dance was announced, Isaac pulled Clara onto the dance floor. "Dance with me again." "This is becoming a habit." "I hope so." They moved together easily, and Clara felt herself relaxing into the moment. This was real. Isaac was real. Whatever happened next, they would figure it out together. "I need to tell you something," Isaac said. "I made some calls this week. There's a job opening at a bookstore in Santa Monica. It's an independent place, specializes in first editions and rare books. The owner is a friend of mine, and she's looking for someone knowledgeable and passionate. I mentioned you." Clara stopped dancing. "Isaac, before you get mad, I didn't get you the job. I just made an introduction. She wants to meet you, that's all. You'd still have to interview and prove yourself, but it's a chance." Clara didn't know what to feel. Gratitude, certainly, but also a flicker of resentment that he'd interfered. "You should have asked me first. You're right, I'm sorry, I overstepped." Isaac looked genuinely contrite. "I just want to help, I know, and I appreciate it, but I need to stand on my own feet." "Then stand on them. Interview for the job and get it on your own merit." "I have complete faith you will," Clara softened. "Thank you, really." Later, after cake had been cut and toasts had been made, Clara found Megan for a private moment. Her sister glowed with happiness, and Clara hugged her tight. "I'm so happy for you," Clara said. "I'm happy for you too. Isaac is a good man. Don't let fear ruin this. When did you get so wise?" "I learned from the best." Megan squeezed her hand. "Now go be with your man. I've got a honeymoon to start." Clara found Isaac on the terrace, looking out at the ocean. She slipped her hand into his, and he pulled her close. "Thank you for coming," Clara said. "It meant a lot. Thank you for letting me be part of this." Isaac turned to face her. "Clara, I know we need to talk about logistics and plans, but right now I just want to tell you that I'm all in. Whatever it takes to make this work, I'm willing to do it. Even if it's complicated and messy, especially then." Clara rose on her toes and kissed him. "I'm all in too." They left the reception early, driving back to the hotel as the sun set over the Pacific. In the suite, Isaac pulled Clara close, his hands framing her face. "I meant what I said. I'm falling in love with you." "Isaac, you don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know." But Clara did want to say it back. The words pressed against her lips, demanding release. "I'm falling in love with you too. I think I started falling the moment you offered me a ride." Isaac kissed her then, slow and thorough. This time, when things heated up, neither of them pulled back. Clara's hands found the buttons of Isaac's shirt while his fingers found the zipper of her dress. They made their way to the bedroom, leaving a trail of clothes behind them. Isaac laid Clara on the bed, his eyes dark with desire. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." He made love to her with a tenderness that brought tears to her eyes. Every touch felt like a promise, every kiss a vow. When they finally lay tangled together, exhausted and happy, Clara felt something click into place. This was what she'd been waiting for. This man, this moment, this feeling of being completely and utterly known. "I love you," Isaac whispered against her hair. "I love you too." They spent the next 2 days in California, barely leaving the hotel room. When they weren't making love, they talked for hours, planning a future that felt both impossible and inevitable. Isaac told Clara he wanted her to move to California, to give the bookstore job a real shot. He promised not to interfere but to support her however she needed. Clara, in turn, told Isaac she wanted him to find balance in his life, to delegate more at work, to take time for himself, to sail again. They made promises and plans, both terrified and excited by the enormity of what they were building. A week later, Clara interviewed at the bookstore in Santa Monica. The owner, Deanne, was a sharp-eyed woman in her 60s who asked tough questions about rare book preservation and literary movements. Clara answered honestly, drawing on her years of experience and genuine love for books. At the end of the hour, Deanne smiled. "You're hired. When can you start?" Clara started the following Monday. Isaac helped her move into a small apartment near the beach, insisting on paying the first 3 months' rent despite her protests. "Consider it a loan," he said. "You can pay me back when you're on your feet." But Clara knew he'd never accept repayment, and she found she didn't mind as much as she thought she would. Isaac's generosity came from love, not pity. The first few months were an adjustment. Clara threw herself into her new job, quickly becoming invaluable to Deanne. Isaac traveled frequently for work but called every night, no matter what time zone he was in. When he was in town, they spent every free moment together, learning each other's rhythms and quirks. 6 months after they met, Isaac took Clara sailing. He'd bought a boat and kept it at a marina in Marina del Rey. Clara had never been on a sailboat before, and she loved the feeling of wind and water, the sense of freedom. "This is amazing," she called over the sound of the waves. Isaac grinned at her from behind the wheel. "I'm glad you think so, because I want to do this every weekend. With me, always with you." 1 year after their first meeting, Isaac proposed. They were back at the scenic overlook in Colorado, the same place they'd first admitted their feelings. Isaac got down on one knee with a ring that was beautiful and tasteful, exactly Clara's style. "Clara Kennedy, you've changed my life in every way that matters. You've taught me what it means to be truly seen and loved. Will you marry me?" Clara didn't hesitate. "Yes, absolutely yes." They got married 6 months later, a small ceremony on the beach with just family and close friends. Megan stood as Clara's maid of honor, and Isaac's business partner served as his best man. Clara wore a simple white dress, and Isaac wore a suit the color of the ocean. When they exchanged vows, both were crying. "I promise to love you in all circumstances," Clara said, "rich or broke, in health and sickness, for all the days of my life." "I promise to see you, really see you, every single day," Isaac said, "to honor your independence while being your partner, to build a life with you that makes us both happy." 2 years later, Clara published her first novel. It was a love story, loosely based on 2 strangers who met on a cross-country road trip. The book became a bestseller, and Clara found herself with a new career as an author. Isaac was her biggest supporter, celebrating every milestone and success. 3 years after that, they welcomed their first child, a daughter they named Lily. Isaac was a devoted father, cutting back his hours at work to be present for every moment. Clara continued writing, now from a home office in the house they'd bought together in Pacific Palisades. On their 5th wedding anniversary, Clara found Isaac on their deck, watching the sunset. She wrapped her arms around him from behind. Happy anniversary. Isaac turned and pulled her close. Best 5 years of my life. Even with all the chaos, especially with the chaos. He kissed her softly. You know, I think about that day in Kansas City sometimes. What would have happened if I hadn't offered you a ride? I would have figured something out. I always do. I know. But I'm grateful I got to be part of your solution. Isaac looked at her with so much love it still took her breath away. You saved me, Clara. I was going through the motions of life, but I wasn't really living. Then you came along and changed everything. We saved each other. They stood together as the sun sank below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Inside, they could hear their daughter's laughter as she played with her grandmother. This was their life now, built on a foundation of love and trust, and that one impulsive decision to share a car with a stranger. Sometimes the best things in life came from taking chances, from saying yes when every logical impulse said no, from believing that love didn't care about bank accounts or backgrounds or the 1,000 reasons something shouldn't work. Love just was. And for Clara and Isaac, it was everything. The years that followed brought more joy than either had imagined possible. Isaac's company continued to thrive, but he'd learned to balance work with family. Clara wrote 3 more novels, each one more successful than the last. They had a second child, a son named Jack, and bought a small sailboat that the whole family used on weekends. On their 10th anniversary, they returned to that rest stop in Kansas, the place where their journey had truly begun. They stood hand in hand, looking out at the same view they'd seen a decade earlier. Think we would have made it if we'd known how hard it would be? Clara asked. Isaac pulled her into his arms. I think we made it because we didn't care how hard it would be. We just knew we wanted to try. No regrets, not a single one. Isaac kissed her, and Clara felt the same spark she'd felt that first time, that promise of something extraordinary. I'd do it all again in a heartbeat. Me too. They got back in their car, their kids arguing happily in the back seat about where to stop for lunch, and continued their journey, because that's what life was, really. A journey with someone you loved, full of unexpected detours and beautiful views and moments of perfect clarity. And it had all started with a stranded woman, a helpful stranger, and a cross-country drive that changed everything.